Who are listening to this, the Intellectual Idiots came out with an episode on Wednesday. So it's a special Wednesday episode, and we got a fun one intact for you. We're going to be talking about the biggest disappointments per division with expectations going into 2023. Obviously, there's a ton of excitement around the NFL season going into this year.
Oh, I just can't wait. I hate this time period right now when there's no sports.
Well, you watch your mouth.
MLB, yeah, I guess we're the dog days of MLB. I'll watch the Brewers, but still.
You watch your mouth. I am a huge baseball guy. Anybody who listens to this podcast knows that I am a massive baseball guy. So I love the dog days of MLB summer.
NFL.
I love the dog days of NFL or MLB summer, but yes, we are very excited for the NFL season. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of teams with a lot of question marks. The draft has gone on, so there's new teams with new expectations with some new players. Obviously, there's been some major changes, like in the case of the Packers. But let's get right into it. All right. Tyler's got AFC, I got NFC, and we're just going to kind of keep bouncing off of each other. So, Ty, hit us. You can start.
All right.
Why not you?
Yeah, I'll start us off with the AFC North, my Steelers division. Really exciting division, honestly, this year. Like, Kenny Pickett in the last 8 weeks of the season actually had an 83 PFF passing grade, which was lower than only 3 quarterbacks in the whole NFL. So I'm super excited about Kenny Pickett and the Steelers, and the Ravens have a lot to look forward to with all the pieces that they've been signing. You know, getting Lamar his bag, getting Odell. You know, they drafted another receiver. They got, still Rashad Bateman. They've got a good run game. And then obviously the Bengals, I think, are potentially a Super Bowl favorite, and I love them. Joe Burrow is that dog. But my disappointment for 2023, compared to what the expectations were of what Watson was supposed to be when he came into the league, are the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, you got a guy like Myles Garrett, your interior, your edge rusher, he's a dominant guy. They lost Jadeveon Clowney, who was their other pass rusher, and then they actually did bring in Zadarius Smith. So their defense, I think they have a really good defense. It really all comes down to Deshaun Watson. And he was absolutely god-awful last year. He had a 51.6 Pro Football Focus grade, which ranked him 34th out of 36 to record at least 200 dropbacks in 2022. I just don't know if he was rusty, but I'm choosing to believe that he's going to suck again this year. I can't stand the man. I just don't like the Browns. So they lost Kareem Hunt too. They're going to have to fully rely on Nick Chubb. I think he's going to have a lot of, extra churn and burn. And he's going to, towards the end of the year, he's not going to be as dominant as he normally is, even though I think he could be the best pure runner in the league.
Just to be clear, this is projected disappointment for 2023, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Good.
That's what I'm saying. I think they're a good team, but because of Deshaun Watson's performance, I still think he's going to be ass. I think they're going to be the disappointment of the AFC North.
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson's pretty interesting, right? It's like last year, it's like obviously he was going to have just boatloads of hate going into the year. That we knew. Then on top of that, he missed 11 games. So it's going to be interesting to see Deshaun Watson in a full year where he's had the whole offseason to practice with his team and all that stuff. Like, all that matters. Every team is more rusty at the beginning of the year. But obviously, by no means we should say a title on this podcast that we never endorse or shut Deshaun Watson. But no, it is going to be interesting. I actually disagree. I think Deshaun Watson's going to have a really good year this year.
Yeah,
I think he's a candidate for comeback player of the year, but we'll see. We will see.
We'll see. I mean, that was just big. I'm really excited. Yeah. The other 3 teams are in really exciting stages. Bengals, Steelers, and Ravens are all in really exciting stages. And honestly, the Browns, you could say they are too. I mean, if Watson shows up, they have a really good young core. They could be damn good. The AFC North is going to be a division to not be messed with.
All right, I'm gonna take the NFC South since
What
Tyler
about the
just took
NFC North?
AFC South. Wait, oh, you just said NFC, AFC North. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna take the NFC North. My
Good.
apologies. Vikings, Lions, Packers, and Bears. Um, I know a lot of people will probably think that my disappointment team going into 2023 is going to be the Vikings because they just had the luckiest season of all time with like a negative 40 point differential, the luckiest team, arguably in NFL history, to get into the playoffs and to win 12 games. They were complete frauds. It showed right away in the playoffs when they got beat by the Giants at home. The Vikings are an absolute joke. They had so many games last year where they got absolutely slaughtered. Um, I just don't think people have a lot of expectations for the Vikings this year because I think that that was pretty much a proven fact that they were a joke. Kirk Cousins is a very average quarterback. Dalvin Cook is gone. They lost Adam Thielen. So, I mean, they got a terrible defense. I just don't think that the Vikings are going to be
Za'Darius
competitive
is
this year. But I will say my biggest disappointment in the NFC North candidate is the Lions.
really.
I know a lot of people.
Crazy high expectations.
Yeah, there's that, and that's exactly why. I think the expectations on the Lions' back is not warranted. It's not earned, in my opinion. The Lions have been so bad for so long. Jared Goff has been so average for so long, and the fact that he went on an
The end of the year, he looked like
he
an
went the fact that he went on a tear at the end of the year, I don't think truly warrants the Lions to have a projection to win the NFC North this year. That's just my opinion. I think the Lions are the biggest. I like Dan Campbell. I honestly, if there's any team in the NFC North that I'm going to pull for, if it's not the Packers, it's the Lions. But personally, I just think that with the expectations going into the year, they lost. They lost DeAndre Swift. They lost
They replaced it with guys.
Miles Sanders, right?
Jahmyr Gibbs, who is like
Yeah,
a
Jahmyr Gibbs.
first-round pick, who they believe to be an upgraded version, who's not going to get hurt with DeAndre Swift. They got David
They lost
Montgomery.
Jamal Williams too. That
Montgomery,
sucks.
who is technically better in yards per carry. Like, you're not really giving many good reasons here. I need some reasons.
Well, I think my main reason is Jared Goff. I think that he played so unbelievable at the end of last year. The Lions defense is still not very good. I think Jared Goff was a major X factor into the reason like why the Lions performed so well. And I just truly believe with the expectations going into 2023 for the Lions that I think there's a very, very high chance that they underperform to what people think that they could do. And I know there's a lot of excitement swarming around Detroit and what the Lions could be, and very well they could have a huge year. But I personally just think going into the year,
Yeah.
I think that they could definitely be a team that could disappoint a lot of people, projecting them to be very good.
Yeah, and their defense was absolutely god awful last year. I think they were ranked like 28th in overall defense, and points per game was absolutely horrendous.
And they didn't do a ton to help it either. So it's like that's another thing that I am concerned about. Jared Goff and their defense are my two main reasons why I think the Lions could underperform.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'll move on to the AFC East. So I was thinking I was going to go with the Patriots, but I think they're definitely projected to be last in the division, considering you have the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets. I think all of them are going to be pretty damn good this year, considering if they're able to stay healthy with Rodgers and Tua. I was going to pick the Patriots just because I don't believe in Mac Jones at all. He got significantly worse last year. And the man is a hothead. He is constantly freaking out on the sidelines. Apparently, he's not a very likable guy. I've got an inside source. Person who went to the University of Alabama that I know personally said that Mac Jones is a dick. So,
quote unquote.
Yep. So my pick, I'm going to go with the Bills. Josh Allen led the NFL in big time.
I like that pick. I like that pick a lot.
He led the NFL in big time throws, but he also had the league leading in turnover plays in the regular seasons and the playoffs. Like he just doesn't thrive in the big moment. And they're not gonna be a bad football team. They've won at least 10 games in the last 4 seasons, but it's hard to imagine them really being dramatically much better than they were a year ago. Two of their biggest needs remain unfulfilled through early free agency in the draft. They still lack a reliable third receiver behind, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. And Stephon Diggs is having major troubles this offseason. He wants to be more involved with the playbook and everything. And, he's always a head case. They don't have much else on the offense. And then, they don't, they did little to upgrade their pass rush that sank when Von Miller went down last year with the ACL tear. Um, so, I think they'll maybe win 10, 11 games, maybe 9, but make the playoffs, lose in the first round. I mean, it's just another disappointment for a team that you expect to be a Super Bowl contender every year with Josh Allen, one of the best players in the league. And they just flounder every time. It's just going to be mediocrity. Once again,
Yeah.
that's why I think, once again, that's going to be the biggest disappointment.
I think Sean McDermott is a good coach, but I just don't think he has a creative as an kind of like the Packers with McCarthy. I feel like he's just not creative enough on offense to really take the Bills to the next level.
Yeah,
And he's been getting a lot of backlash for that too. And I mean, obviously the Stephon Diggs situation is concerning. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good pick. So I have NFC East. The Cowboys are a disappointment every single year. Everybody knows that they're going to lose. They're going to get into the first round of the playoffs and they're going to lose. I think the Eagles are really, 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 really good. I think that the Commanders are bad, and I think that they will be bad again. So my biggest disappointment going into the 2023 season is the Giants.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to, first of all, before saying the obvious, I'm going to state Mac Jones stats Daniel Jones stats over the last 3 years. 2020.
And just got paid $50 million. Remember that, audience.
11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 80.4 quarterback rating. He threw for under 3,000 yards. 2021, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 84 quarterback rating. He threw for under 3,000 yards. 2022, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 92.5 quarterback rating. Those are not stats of an NFL quarterback that is getting paid $50 million a year. That is insanity. That is insanity that they paid Mac Jones that money. I think that the Giants have a ceiling with Daniel Jones. I do not think that he's the answer in New York. I think that he's
do anything significant in the playoffs.
I think he's a decent quarterback to average, and I think that himself has the ability to completely blow up the Giants season. First and foremost, I think he's not good. And I think that he has the ability to absolutely plummet the Giants next year. If he decides he's going to be terrible, I think that he has the ability to absolutely blow things up, number one. Number two, offensive line, still not good. Number three, defense, still very mediocre. Number four, Saquon Barkley hasn't even announced that he's going to be showing up to camp yet. There's a lot of question marks around Saquon Barkley that he might not be happy with the organization. They put him on that same situation with the Packers and Devontae Adams. They got him on a franchise tag and all that stuff. He believes that he needs to get paid his money that he's owed. Again, I disagree with Saquon Barkley. He's very, very injury prone. He's been struggling to stay on the field, and he really only had his first good year in like 4 years last year. So, I don't know. The Giants are in a lot of limbo right now. I think that Brian Daboll is a really, really good coach, but maybe a little bit of a sophomore slump. So I think a lot of New York fans are having a lot of expectations for the Giants coming into 2023, and I think that they might very well be disappointed.
Okay. Cool. Well, we will move on to the AFC West. Another interesting division. I think you really can't go any further down than what the Broncos were last year. They were extremely disappointed, an extreme disappointment, especially for a city that just brought back a championship for the Denver Nuggets. So you can't go much further down with the Broncos, so I'm not going to put them up there. The Chiefs, I don't think they'll disappoint ever. Justin Herbert, I think he's going to continue to get better and continue to learn and, ascend to being a top 5 quarterback in this league at some point. I think he's, close to that. I don't think it's going to be the Chargers either. So my choice right now is going to be the Raiders.
Raiders.
Jimmy Garoppolo replaces Derek Carr. Really just a holdover position. I mean, his last season, with a PFF grade over 72 came in 2019. So it's fair to wonder if this will even be an upgrade. I don't think it's an upgrade. I think Derek Carr is better. I do. they signed their big splash was signing, Jacoby Myers, who's actually pretty damn good, according to Pro Football Focus, the seventh ranked free agent. I saw a stat that he really doesn't ever drop the ball, so that's exciting. They also, re-signed a few tackles. Their offensive line, is good. Josh Jacobs was the top rated running back last year. They also signed Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech, an edge rusher who could have been selected as high as number 2 or number 3 if not for concerns, with his foot injury. Um, but I don't like the play. I think they should have tried to make a move for a quarterback, and instead they're going to hold it over with Jimmy G. They're going to win 6-7 games in my opinion. They signed Aiden O'Connell from Purdue, and in the fourth round, and from I don't know much about him, but maybe he could be the future. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know anything about him, but I don't know. Yeah, I think the Raiders are my choice. I don't have a ton of reasons for it other than Jimmy G is just kind of he's a stopgap, and they need to find the next heir to their long term future, and this is just going to be a holdover year for them.
I think you had a couple teams to probably choose from in that division. So I like the Raiders. I mean, I think that they are going to be a disappointment. I agree with you on that. I mean, I don't know. If I were you, I might have chosen the Chargers just because I feel like there are higher expectations for them, or the Broncos too. You could have chosen any of those three teams, I think.
The
But
Broncos already disappointed so much last year, though.
I know, but there's some higher expectations with Sean Payton coming in and Russell Wilson being in his second year and healthy and all that stuff. So we'll see. We'll see. I like the pick. Okay, so I got what did you just do? AFC. You just did AFC West. Okay, I got NFC West. So I think you're going to be surprised by my potential biggest disappointment in 2023. It's the San Francisco 49ers.
Whoa.
And the reasoning as to why I think that is I think that their quarterback position is a severe problem. A severe problem. All they need is a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo because Kyle Shanahan's a genius and they have the best defense in the world. So all you needed is a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo. You have a good line, you have a good defense, you have good running back, you have decent running backs, and you have the best defense in the world, right? I'm concerned about their quarterback situation. Brock Purdy coming fresh off of a UCL injury. I mean, he's not even back to throwing the football yet.
Trey Lance probably start the season if he can, roll. Maybe it will be him.
Yeah, Trey Lance is a massive question mark. Just tore his ACL. I mean, he's hasn't really had any time. He's basically a rookie. He hasn't had any time to get his feet wet in the league. He's played a half of a game. I mean, I'm really concerned with the 49ers quarterback situation. I think that they have the best opportunity to succeed with Kyle Shanahan. Debo had a really down year last year. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned with what they got going on. I don't think their draft was very good. I think the 49ers are going to make the playoffs. I think they're definitely going to make a run, and obviously they're a Super Bowl contender. But if you can say with confidence that Brock Purdy or Trey Lance are going to go win me a Super Bowl, I don't know. That seems like a major, major, major question mark to me. Brock Purdy's not even healthy. I think if he was, he deserves a starting spot. But he's not, and Trey Lance is not even healthy yet, so I don't know what they're going to do.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so next we have the AFC South. A lot of really young talent in this division. You got Trevor Lawrence out of Jacksonville. I think they're probably the likely favorite to the division.
Will Levis.
You got the Texans, CJ Stroud. He's got pretty high expectations, even though they're probably going to finish towards near the bottom of the league. You got Anthony Richardson for the Colts, who I'm super excited for. And you got the Titans at Will Levis, Ryan Tannehill.
You know how much I love Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson is going to be really fun to watch. I'm excited to watch Colts games. CJ Stroud, I think he will end up being a really good quarterback too. But my pick's going to be the Titans. They're just overrated. They're probably expectations to win 7 to 9 games, but virtually any of their success hinges on the health and, efficiency of Derrick Henry, and the Titans don't really have a lot else going for them. parted ways with a lot of their defensive players. David Long, Bud Dupree, Ben Jones, Taylor Wan, and then they also got rid of, Robert Woods. I don't even know who the receivers are right now, besides other than Traylon Burks. Like I really don't. And they also ranked dead last in pass defense last year, and they were 23rd in total defense. That's a huge issue when you don't have an offense that is in any way dynamic at all. They will benefit, playing in a pretty bad division. I mean, I think in a few years it's going to be a damn good division when Texans having CJ Stroud, and then also having Will Anderson, who's going to be an absolute baller, and then Jacksonville being the reigning champs and giving them no reason. They're not going to decline at all. They're only going to keep going up. Trevor Lawrence could be an eventual MVP candidate, but the Titans get off to a slow start. This season could quickly become Ryan Tannehill passing the torch to Will Levis, and if Will Levis doesn't play well, then they might go for Caleb Williams next year, even though they drafted Malik Willis, who was an absolute failure. So
you thought he was going to – you wanted the Steelers to get Malik Willis, by the way, in that draft.
Malik Willis was not the guy, and that was something I was very wrong with. So
I like it. I mean, interesting pick. I mean, I think that the Titans are just a disaster. I think that they're going to end up being really, really bad. Like, I think that there's possibility that the Titans finish as one of the worst teams in the league. I really do. They're really, really
I don't
bad.
like them at all this year.
All right. Now, if AFC South is terrible in the AFC, and the NFC South is also absolute dog shit. So the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Falcons.
Another young-ass division.
Young division. Falcons got some talent. The Saints, they just got Derek Carr. A lot of people are really hyped on the Saints. The Buccaneers have nothing. So I got to say, probably my potential biggest disappointment for the 2023 season is the Panthers. And the reasoning as to why I say that is the Panthers actually had a pretty decent season last year, considering their expectations. They won 7 games. They were basically a game away from making it to the playoffs because the Buccaneers were so bad. They hosted a playoff game at 8-9, so the Panthers had a chance to get in. And this year, I think that a lot of people are really high on the Panthers because they added to a 7-10 team. They added the number 1 overall pick in the draft, Bryce Young, as their quarterback. So I think that there are a lot of expectations, but I always think that it's really important for fans and for coaches and for players in the NFL to temper expectations for rookies. I don't care if you're the number 1 pick in the draft. Like, look at Trevor Lawrence. It took him 3 years to start playing like an MVP quarterback, right?
Especially with quarterbacks, like with wide receivers, running backs, edge rushers. It's a lot of physical stuff. Like running back, can you run fast? Can you make moves? Can you power through people? Wide receiver, can you catch, run routes, and do you have speed? With quarterbacks, there's so many intangibles, and it's so hard to hit on a quarterback these days. So many first rounders and second rounders haven't worked out, and it's so many intangible aspects. And like you said, you got to temper expectations.
Yeah. And that goes for all sports, right? Like, you got a top prospect in baseball, you bring them up and they might not perform, right? So it's definitely something that I feel like people are not going to temper their expectations. They're going to think Bryce Young is going to come into the league and be, Lamar Jackson, and that's just not going to be the case. So I definitely think that the Panthers have a shot to really let a lot of people down next year. But honestly, dude, this was really fun. Like, that was fun. I love talking about teams that are potentially going to disappoint the shit out of everybody. It's something that just brings a little joy.
A lot of joy.
Do you want an honorable mention for the AFC?
Let me think. I honestly, I don't really have an honorable mention at the moment. But if you have an NFC honorable mention, go for it.
Yeah, I actually have 2.
All right, well, we got 2. Wrap it up.
I'll take yours, right? So my number 1 honorable mention for the NFC comes out of the NFC West in the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith just got paid. I think the Seahawks.
You think he's going to plunder?
I think he might crash and burn. there might be a Geno Smith crash and burn situation going on in Seattle.
I hope not.
I'm really worried. I love Geno, but I think the Seattle Seahawks performed out of their mind last year. And I think towards the end of the season, the back half of the season, you kind of saw the true Seattle Seahawks. And I just think it might be a disaster. Pete Carroll is probably getting really close to retirement. Their defense is not very good. Geno Smith, I love you, Geno, but I'm worried. I'm very worried. All right. Very worried.
One more minute. What do you got? What's your last one?
One more minute. Last one, the Bears. Chicago Bears. Right. I think people they got a new receiver, Justin Fields, in his second year. I think a lot of people are like high on the Bears, and I just remember the Bears. I'll end with this: the Bears will always let you know.
The Bears still suck and will always suck.
All right, that's all we got for you today for the Intellectual Idiots. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow, and give us 5 stars on the pod. But otherwise, the Intellectual Idiots are rolling out.
Thank you.
Make it a good week.